Hey there, Ben here. In this video, we're going to walk through how to run a slow watch party for a Wardley mapping talk from MapCamp. We'll cover the basics, the how-to, where it came from, all that fun stuff. We'll also talk through an example, and then I'll make a map at the end so you can see the details of all the moving parts. A slow watch party is not original to MapCamp. It's something that I learned about from Romeo at Malkazamath on Twitter. And the basic idea is take a talk from a conference, say a 45-minute to 1 hour talk, and then get a group together and watch it together. And over the course of 4 to 5 hours, sort of digest it as a group, really engaging with the material. The basic structure, the bare minimum that you need is a conference talk to watch, a place to do it in, like Zoom, and then kind of a basic structure of watching the talk section by section. Romeo recommends like a 10-minute section at a time. Then taking a couple minutes to reformulate the section that you just watched in your own words, and then discussing that section, discussing your reformulation, kind of digesting and engaging with that section of the talk for 20 to 40 minutes of discussion. And then just repeat and do another 10 minutes, do another 10 minutes, do another 10 minutes. Repeat that structure until you're done through the talk. This is a great way to really engage with the material, but also to hear what other people think and how they hear it, how they understand it, and learn from each other in that way. So that's the basic format. It's really not more complicated than that. Just get a bunch of people in a room, watch a talk together. But I wanted to run through an example of this. It's a little bit more complicated, just so you can kind of see how flexible the format is. So we ran a slow watch party for the opening talk of MapCamp 2021, the state of mapping with Simon. And we used this kind of structure. Basically, we had an opening and we had a closing, and then in between, we just kind of ran a similar kind of structure that Romeo was recommending, but a little bit different, using a 1-2-4-all structure because we had a lot of people on the call. Now, if you're not familiar with it, 1-2-4-all is a liberating structures concept. I'll put a link to that in the description in case you'd like to learn more. And the idea is that individuals engage with the material, then you engage with the material as pairs and sort of discuss, and then you get together in a group of 4, combining pairs, so you get an even more vibrant, rich kind of engagement there, and then everyone comes back together and kind of talks about what they learned. So we did exactly that. Basically, I broke out the video into a set of sections. You don't have to be this intense about it, but I went through and found 8-minute long sections where there were natural pausing points. You can usually do that spontaneously. You don't need to pre-plan it like this, but I found it helpful. And what I did here is I basically said, here's the section. As we go along and watch the video, as an individual, write out your reformulation of the ideas as you see them. And so you can see here, everyone wrote out their ideas. They were reformulating in their own words as the talk was going on. Again, you could have that as a specific section after you watch the talk where everyone does that together. But then, in pairs, once we finished watching the section, we then had them discuss that reformulation, and then I think I did 3 minutes for this, and then we came back together as a group of 4, discussed for 10 minutes, and then coming back together as a full group to just do readouts of what was salient, what was interesting, what was good, what was surprising. And we did that a couple times. It took us about 3 hours to get through probably 35, 40 minutes of content in Simon's talk. One or two other embellishments that we did here. And during the opening, we, instead of kind of waiting for everyone to join and then a bunch of people being late, because that's just the way it usually goes, we did something where we had an opening breakout discussion. So as soon as people joined the call, we threw them into breakout rooms. Gave them a prompt, welcomed them, gave them a prompt. Here's an example. What's one thing you learned from MapCamp? Point is, it's an icebreaker, but it's also relevant to what we're doing here. So as people joined, we would welcome them again, add them to the breakout groups that were already in progress. And that way, folks are discussing right away from minute 0. And as people join late, we kind of add them to that discussion, but it gives us more of a rolling start. This is something I learned from Judy Reese. I'll put a link to her content on Web Events That Connect. Super good stuff. So that's just a little bit of how we spiced it up. The second embellishment was we just had a closing here where we did 2 things. One, we had a closing kind of moment where what was one big thing that you're going to take away from today, what's going to stick with you. And then we also had room for a retrospective for people to actually leave feedback on the format, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. That's just one example of how you could run this kind of event. Again, the structure is really up to you, and experiment with a lot of different ways of doing this. I think that's actually really super valuable to have a bunch of different options for people. And most important thing, share what you find. Let us know how it goes, what you learn, etc. If you need any help with that, you can always reach out to me at Hired Thought on Twitter. If you need to talk to me, let's see, at Hired Thought, or you can also email me, ben@hiredthought.com. If you need any help with formulating an after action discussion of like how you ran a format, or also you can contact me if you have questions about how to run one of these too. I'm always happy to talk about this kind of stuff. With that, there are a couple quick tips that I just want to leave you with before I go make a map. And the first thing I'll say is simpler is better. Follow the more basic structure if it's your first time running a slow watch party. Just get people together, pick a talk, watch that talk section by section, and for each section, restate the main ideas after you watch it and discuss those main ideas. That's it. Rinse and repeat until you finish the talk. That basic structure is all you need. What I'll also say is that as the host, it's your job to kind of create this welcoming environment. So, make sure that people know to be kind, make sure they follow the code of conduct. If it's an official MapCamp event, if it's not an official MapCamp event, then it might be worthwhile putting in place your own code of conduct just so people know what the expectations are. I tend to set expectations in my events that we're going to be focusing more on kindness and learning and kind of taking a humble kind of inquiry approach to how we do things, rather than making it an intellectual discussion where whoever's smartest is like performing better or whatever. Like, I'm not really into that. So that's the kind of tone that I set for my events. The other thing is keeping time is really important. So setting the expectations of how long we'll kind of work through each section. So I like to use the Miro board built-in time function. So down here, you'll see there's a little timer. You can pop that up and set a timer and it'll count down for you and all that fun stuff. Use that so everyone can kind of keep an eye on the time. And then when it hits 0, kindly but firmly help people move on so that we actually get time for the full talk. The other thing I'll mention is because of the length of the session, it's actually really important to take a longer period of time to digest a talk slowly like this. So 3, 4, 5 hours is actually kind of what you want to be aiming for. But that also means that you need to make sure there's time for breaks, times for people to step away, stretch, set the expectations that people can take care of themselves. They can go use the restroom, they can take care of their kids, whatever they need to do to step away. Just you as a facilitator need to also accommodate that as well in the structures that you design. One final thing with the technical side of things, regardless of your solution, if you're using something like Zoom or anything else, make sure to just take 5 minutes with a friend. Find a friend to do a technical run through with. Take that 5 minutes, test all the moving parts that you're going to be using for the session. Believe me, it'll make everything go so much more smoothly. That technical run through is super helpful. All right, with that, I'm going to go make a map real quick. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, email me, find me on Twitter, or whatever you want to do. I'm always happy to hear from you. All right.